The heavens have patterns, and those patterns often mirror what unfolds in our society and in our personal lives. I want to talk more deeply about the dance between Saturn and Uranus, forming what astrologers call a sextile aspect. Sextiles are a 60-degree angle in the sky as seen from Earth. So in the big circle of the sky above us, if there was a clock on it and one planet was at 12 and another planet is at 2, you'd have a sextile, or 2 and 4, or 4 and 6, and so on, 60-degree angle. So when planets are at that degree, they are in what is often referred to as an opportunity aspect, meaning they are providing an opportunity or an opening. It's not like guaranteed good luck, but it is an opening and it's an opportunity. This dynamic explains a lot about what's going on in our world today. It's a part of how we can understand the simultaneous crumbling while possibilities and positive change emerge. And it's also part of how we can understand the place we stand, which is at a threshold. I talk about that word a lot because it's just where we are. You know, this ending, the simultaneous ending and beginnings that we're witnessing. The celestial dialogue between these two planets, Saturn and Uranus, suggests something important. Perhaps this painful transition carries purpose beyond random suffering. What if we're experiencing necessary dissolution that precedes new creation? I talk about this a lot. And I talk about this a lot because it's happening because of several different phenomena up there, right? Like it's just the theme in the sky for 2 years. So it's not just me beating a dead horse. It is me saying over and over again, there's examples in the real world and there's examples in the sky that we are experiencing these two things simultaneously. Saturn represents boundaries and form, the architect of structures that withstand time. We can see Saturn's presence in the rise of institutions, traditions, established hierarchies, societal frameworks. Saturn highlights and affects stability, durability, proven methods. I like to think of Saturn as a stern but benevolent grandpa. He's like this old grump who's annoyingly pretty much always right. He asks, what's been tested? What can we rely on? What foundations will support us? So Saturn embodies authority, discipline, and social contracts. Saturn is stability. We could use some of that right now, right? So upon Grandpa's hard work and respect for integrity, we can live safely in a world he governed. And then there's Uranus, the cosmic disruptor and the revolutionary force. Where Saturn preserves, Uranus transforms. I see Uranus as my loving and kind of racy gay uncle. This is not a stereotype of all gay men as racy, please. We all know enough seriously Saturnian gay men to know this. But there is an archetype within gay popular culture and in the gay community and in my community of this impish wild child, right? Where a person who is actually a fully fledged adult, but who gets the big picture and does really fun things anyway, right? So does that resonate with you? You can ignore it if it doesn't. When Uranus is on the move or sits at important angles, he rules sudden breakthroughs, radical departures, unexpected innovations. Uranus questions everything Saturn holds sacred, asks, why these limitations? Who benefits from this arrangement? What possibilities lie beyond this established set of boundaries? Right, so Uranus governs technological leaps, social revolutions, paradigm shifts that arrive like lightning strikes. When Uranus causes something wild, I feel this wink coming from the sky and like a wry smile. Like, what do you think? Was it too dramatic? Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's for the best? You like what I did there? And I feel that way about Uranus because Uranus has like a happy place in my chart. A lot of people don't feel that way about sudden change or even, you know, sort of sparkly sudden moves because of where Uranus sits in their chart. But it's sort of central to me and comfortable to me, so I like it. So that's a thing to ask yourself, you know, sort of how do you react to sudden change? But typically these energies of the grumpy, disciplined grandpa and the unpredictable force operate at cross purposes. So during 21 and 22, they formed what's called a square aspect, a 90-degree angle. Not the 60 that they're in now, but a 90-degree angle. And that created intense friction. So think about that period. Pandemic restrictions versus personal freedom, right? Increasing polarization, institutional authority under fire from all sides. lots of like breaking out of the system, of the strictures of the system. So classic conflictual energy between I got to get out of here and you got to be safe, right? So what's happening now is different. Those two are now at a sextile, which is a much easier angle. And it's got 3 exact hits because planets are going to go forward, backward, forward. Say the word dance. But so there's these 3 hits. One was back in April of this year, another's coming in August of this year, and then the last one is in January of next year. So we're kind of in the middle of the dance. They're not too close together now, but they're certainly still in range. And so the whole time is just a bit of madness, predicted and foreseen madness, I should say, that we've been warned about for centuries. And this aspect is a big part of why folks who know the sky knew it was going to get weird. Part of the weirdness that was foreseen when looking at these patterns and looking at how several patterns would converge in this 25-26. Part of it is caused by the fact that both of them are in the process of moving neighborhoods at the same time. Remember that vocab word ingress? It means I'm changing from one skyland to another. So if the sky is divided into 12 sections, again, much like a clock or a sundial, these things are all connected, and they're at 12 and 2. Well, they're moving now into 11 and 1, right? So they're like this, and then in that same pattern, they're kind of moving like that. Does that make sense? So they're still maintaining this approximate angle. They're going to get it exact again in a bit, but they're maintaining it almost exactly for months and months and months. And while they maintain it, they're both holding suitcases and planning to reorient to entirely new homes. Right. So I'm at this angle with you and I'm personally changing at the same time. Right. So we're both in transition and we're related at the same time. We're in relationship. I'll get into the skylands more thoroughly another day, but I bring it up now to say this move, 2 moves, while maintaining this powerful angle is big news. So they're exchanging this sort of cosmic handshake at this pivotal juncture. We've got so much else going on. And if you've listened to me at all, you know some of those other characters, but this is an important set of variables that we're dealing with through this time. So they're up there exchanging this cosmic handshake at this pivotal juncture, suggesting potential collaboration between forces of preservation and transformation. The sextile doesn't guarantee harmony. It merely offers opportunity. There's other angles that are like, oh, that's going to work out well. This one's not like that. It's not a square. It's not the like, let's fight, but it is, it's an opening. So unlike other aspects that force conflict or create effortless flow, a sextile presents possibility. And that requires conscious engagement. It suggests perhaps these opposing forces could find productive dialogue. To translate that into the personal, perhaps this chaos is going to produce new structures I can count on. Perhaps the upheaval is leading me to forge a more stable path for myself in whatever aspects of life I'm finding most impacted. Right? So we're witnessing a moment where structure and revolution might collaborate rather than simply oppose each other. The challenge before us, though, isn't choosing between tradition or innovation, but rather discovering how they might inform and strengthen each other during this profound transitional period. When we rebuild, what will we imagine and create anew? And what will need to remain true from the past, from the original structure of the thing? Perhaps even more true, or true with more integrity. Okay, so if we're in this protean soup moment, let's look at other historical periods that can give us a glimpse of how this process has played out before, this evolution has played out before. Back in the 1850s, we had a Saturn Uranus sextile while the Victorian age was in full swing. So think about it. Trains, telegraphs, radically changing how people connected, how people traveled, who could be where by when. Darwin's working on his Origin of the Species. It's a moment when revolutionary ideas weren't just blowing things up, but finding their way into the culture, right? So changing it from within, kind of like what we're experiencing now. Old structures, old ways of being undone, and new ways of living, of communicating, of thinking, how governing are transformed. The sextile between Saturn and Uranus in 1966 and 1967, the heart of the 60s, offers an even clearer picture of what we're facing today. Yes, there is incredible revolutionary energy. We're all very aware of that. the formation of the Black Panther Party, the anti-Vietnam protests, the hippie counterculture, Summer of Love, right? But what's often overlooked is how much institution building was happening alongside the disruption. Probably, frankly, not in the light of the disruptors themselves. The civil rights movement isn't just marching in the street and attracting all that attention, right? There's drafting of legislation, there's creating legal strategies, building educational and economic institutions within communities. The National Organization for Women, NOW, you may have heard of it, wasn't just challenging the patriarchy, it was creating a formal organizational structure, developing leadership training, and crafting policy agendas for women. Even the counterculture communes were establishing their own systems of governance and sustainability. The revolutionary energy is finding structure, finding a home within the system while changing it. Right? So getting more grown up as a disrupting force. So not just throwing eggs at the TV, right? Not just screaming at the back of the auditorium, but rather having grown up, formal, sort of institution creating or institution reckoning intervent you how it's been and what it could be. The disruption wasn't just tearing things down, it was building new forms simultaneously. Look at the Voting Rights Act implementation or the creation of the Equal Opportunity Commission. Revolutionary ideals becoming codified into institutional frameworks. That's the Saturn Uranus sextile at work. Not just rebellion, but reformation. There's another sextile in the late 80s where you see the fall of the Soviet Union and the wildly impactful rise of the use of personal computers. The old rigid structures crumble. We have new ways of talking to each other. We have new ways of thinking about the global nature of things. Digital technologies started weaving themselves into our lives, not separate from society, but becoming the new infrastructure. That infrastructure has in many ways become a poison, right? So we are now at the next cycle of needing to reimagine what that infrastructure could look like, what regulation could look like that might protect us and our children in this new era. Even the collapse of the Soviet system in the late 80s, it's not just destruction, it's involving the creation of new constitutional frameworks, new economic systems, new social organizations emerging from the dissolution. Were they permanent? Were they stable enough? Were they effective enough? Did they take good enough care of the people? No. So they fell apart again later. This is also a warning inside the invitation of the Saturn Uranus sextile. What we build next has to be thoughtful, has to have integrity, and has to, for heaven's sakes, take care of everybody. And that's the hopeful read here, because each of the periods had their share of messiness and pain, but they also show us that humanity has navigated these threshold moments before. We say all the time how we are in unprecedented times, and surely we are, but every part of the unprecedented nature of this has happened before, right? So if we take each variable apart and look at what it's done, we are in a position to understand ourselves, to understand our moment, to understand what's possible. We have stood at these crossroads where so much is ending and beginning at the same time before. So when we feel that disorientation, that collective exhaustion that we've talked about, maybe we can take some comfort in knowing that we're part of a larger rhythm. The chaos has a pattern to it. The protein soup is doing exactly what it's supposed to do before reassembling into something new that honors both stability and change. When you're up to your knees in the soup, though, or up to your eyeballs, it's hard to stay present in the big picture. But to be honest with you, it's one of the main reasons I'm trying to do this is to create a conversation, to foster a conversation where we can notice the big picture, honor our pain, honor what we're living through, honor how brutal it is to be alive in the midst of this, but also celebrate the incredible beauty, the incredible gift, the incredible opportunity. Most importantly, this aspect reminds us of our agency, of our capacity to consciously engage with evolutionary processes rather than experiencing ourselves as passive recipients of external forces. I hesitate to use this word, but I do think it's relevant here. We are not victims of events, right? Even the assholes who are causing so much pain for people, we are not their victims. We are all present in this play, in this drama, unfolding at this time. They are causing themselves as much harm as anybody else, right? Like, it's not going to work out for them. You don't get to behave this way and, reach enlightenment in this lifetime. Like, it's not how it works, right? Like, they will experience suffering as a result of what they're doing. And it's not personal, right? Like, they're not harming us because they know us. So to stay present in the reality and to avoid occupying the victim place for too long by stabilizing, by saying, fine, I see your chaos, I see your harm, I see your destruction, I see how it makes me feel small, I see how I lose confidence, I see how I feel like I'm falling apart sometimes. But in the face of that, I'm going to create community, stability, ritual, routine that I know I can count on and lean into in this time. I want to stay here. I want to be here for this, right? You are here on this planet with these people at this time for a reason. Throughout history, ordinary individuals have preserved essential knowledge during times like this, during institutional collapse. Or ordinary individuals have maintained cultural continuity through social disruption or planted seeds for future flourishing amid apparent devastation. Look at what the Black Panthers did. Look at what now did. This might manifest as documenting disappearing expertise. It might manifest as establishing micro-communities of mutual support. It might manifest as maintaining cultural and intellectual traditions from your own people that are now facing extinction. It might manifest as being part of the safe harbor for people who are under direct assault. Remember that human experience consistently demonstrates how periods of greatest challenge generate unprecedented creativity. So something that is rising in you to be created, to be fed, to be met, is being informed by this chaos, right? So connection, collective resilience, like these things are rising in response to the chaos. That's why I'm saying this guy, this gay uncle is here to cause good stuff in us, even if we hate sudden change. We stand in a lineage of ancestors who have navigated comparable transitions, finding meaning and purpose amid apparent dissolution. And throughout those transitions, humanity has consistently preserved wisdom that illuminates our darkest moments. We can turn back and look at what has been written in times like this before us. Countless spiritual and philosophical traditions remind us to notice those working towards healing and restoration when destructive forces seem overwhelming. Think of Princess Leia, for heaven's sakes. Right? This simple reorientation of attention reveals collaborative networks forming precisely when they're most needed. Give yourself permission to be part of what happens in response to this. Know that it'll be minds on the planet now who craft the response, who craft the world we will live in when it's over. Dude, why can't that include you and your vision for how we could be? Saturn is telling us that it is time to get to work on what we want and what we need now in the face of chaos, or perhaps making friends with and welcoming and reacting in a productive way to the chaos, to the drama. I see your drama and I raise you one stability. Amid institutional dismantling, thousands mobilized to document, preserve, and rebuild. Scientists ejected from American government agencies are establishing alternative research networks or relocating to other, more welcoming nations. Experts at the national level are being recruited heavily by state-level agencies. Local weathermen are being reframed as heroes, the heroes that they once were, as national data becomes less and less reliable. Europe and the UK are finding their way back to productive partnerships. They're having a summit today, their first formal tete-a-tete since Brexit. Academic institutions are collaborating and joining forces to create democracy defense initiatives, to preserve scholarly knowledge and democratic norms outside government frameworks. Indigenous-led land conservation efforts are gaining recognition and funding from mainstream environmental organizations. State-level coalitions are combining forces to think about how to protect and uplift education as it is under assault. and being systematically defunded at the national level. Right? We're blending traditional knowledge with modern approaches. You have got regional climate efforts in the Northeast and the Northwest, where states and communities are coming together to build and foster new and more sustainable models for what comes next. Tech developers are creating open source decentralized platforms to archive and protect scientific data threatened by all this interference. Rural hospital systems are developing telehealth networks to maintain healthcare access despite funding cuts. Local journalism is being revitalized. Efforts merging established investigative traditions with new community-supported business models. Buddhist philosophy offers valuable perspective about embracing rather than avoiding difficult transitions, suggesting that moving forward towards uncomfortable truths creates unexpected liberation. The Saturn Uranus Sextile echoes this teaching, inviting us to find freedom, not through escaping structure, but through transforming our relationship with it. Many indigenous wisdom traditions speak to the importance of maintaining relationship with nature and nature's cycles during societal disruption. Be outside, listen to the wind. These teachings emphasize how periods of disillusion inevitably precede renewal, how darkness contains seeds of rebirth, how collapse creates space for emergence. These perspectives provide crucial orientation during times when conventional institutions lose their coherence, lose their reliability. Contemporary systems theorists describe how complex adaptive systems periodically require disruption to evolve beyond existing limitations. Established structures eventually reaching capacity constraints, necessitating reorganization at higher complexity levels. This perspective frames institutional collapse not as a failure, but as prerequisite for evolving more adaptive, responsive organizational forms. In her beloved text, When Things Fall Apart, Tibetan Buddhist says, only to the extent that we expose ourselves over and over to annihilation can that which is indestructible be found in us. Each of these wisdom traditions recognizes that transformation rarely progresses linearly or comfortably. Revolutionary periods feel disorienting, precisely because they inhabit the threshold between dissolving and emerging. The Saturn-Uranus sextile ultimately invites us towards new social formations that integrate stabilizing foundations with evolutionary adaptability, not regression to idealize past arrangements, but evolution towards something, towards organizational form that integrates ancient wisdom and the possibilities that are emerging. So as we conclude today, I offer 3 elements to carry forward. First, a practice. Dedicate 5 minutes daily to knowing what you actually feel. Like, are you wretched today or are you in glory today? And discuss it alone, in writing, or ideally outside with your source, with your God, right? Like, what do you feel? How is it getting to you today? Are you in the hardest part of it, or are you in a place where you have relief? And part of the magic, part of the essence of surviving this time is actually being in touch with what's going on for you. There's a lot of care systems that ask people to check in with their emotions before the conversation starts. Like, you go around the room and you say, I am sad right now. I am angry right now. I am sad, angry, and afraid right now. Like, I am joyful right now. I am numb right now. I am, what are you right now? Just knowing what it is, and perhaps a little bit of interrogation into why, but speaking to your source about it with your words, with your mouth, with the voice that comes through your chest, where no one else can hear you, but where you can say what's true. And you can ask for help. You can ask for light. You can ask for clarity. No matter what your belief system is, it will come. And then second, a contemplation or a reflection response, right? So it's useful as a writing prompt or as a prompt for a conversation with somebody who makes you feel safe. But the question I have for you is, what are your stabilizing choices and what are your chaos elements, right? Like, where are you experiencing personal chaos right now, and where are you experiencing personal stability right now? Where are you an agent of Uranus right now? Where are you an agent of that chaos right now? And where are you an agent of Saturn? Where are you an agent of stability? And are you creating enough space in your life to tolerate both? Like, I have a much harder time with Saturnian themes than I do with Uranus themes, right? Like I'm much more comfortable with chaos than I am with structure, with like, stability, right? So everybody's built differently. So which kind are you? And are you seeking balance, right? Like while you reach for the thing you're most comfortable with, are you also reaching into the opposing force so that while they're in a sextile with each other, meaning an opportunity aspect, while they are there together, and they will be for the next 18 months. Well, 18 is probably strong, but they will be for the next 8 months, 8-ish months, 7, 8 months. Like, how can you leverage this opportunity? How can you lean into this opportunity? Knowing what your base instinct is, that you lean towards either stability or chaos. Like, how can you leverage the other side of that equation? That's cool food for thought. And then finally, I want to leave you with a poem, as I always do. This is a poem that I first found in a book many moons ago. It's a book, one of my favorite edited texts. It's called This Bridge Called My Back. And it's edited, it's stories of, it's words of resistance from women of color. And it's old. It's probably published in the 80s is my guess. And one of the editors, a woman named Cherry Moraga, it was also edited by a woman named Gloria Anzaldúa. But Cherry has a poem in it, and I'm going to read just a bit of it to you. I'm going to read the beginning and the end. The beginning starts like this. I am a welder, not an alchemist. I am interested in the blend of common elements to make a common thing. No magic here. Only the heat of my desire to fuse what I already know exists is possible. We plead to each other. We all come from the same rock. We all come from the same rock, ignoring the fact that we bend at different temperatures, that each of us is malleable up to a point. Yes, fusion is possible, but only if things get hot enough. All else is temporary adhesion, patching up. Here's how she ends. I am the welder. I understand the capacity of heat to change the shape of things. I am suited to work within the realm of sparks out of control. I am the welder. I am taking the power into my own hands. I would love to talk to you about your chaos and your stability. I would love to talk to you about your balance. I would love to talk to you about how you're feeling, about how you're engaging, about how you're creating either of these in your life. I'd love to talk to you about your assignment generally. What is it that you're doing, to quote Mary Oliver, with this one wild and precious life, right? What meaning are you making of it? And what gifts have you received? To what extent are you still ashamed of things that you were just born into? One of the most powerful things that happens in a chart reading is people are like, oh, that's why I'm like that, right? Like me with my chaos. Like I get that that's just part of how I was built, right? It's part of it's part of the sky I was born under. And so the more I can understand it, the more I can balance it, right? The more I can lean into the parts that would help it feel whole. And so understanding sort of your challenges and then also understanding your gifts and letting them rise up as places that can mark the future for you, can mark the most helpful place for you to go next. I find that readings are also an opportunity to just take a minute out and reflect, but also take a peek at your shadow side, take a peek at the stuff that you fight against in yourself and are afraid to own and claim as yours. And readings can be a real gift in that way. So if you'd like to do that with me, you can find me, the address in the description. So until next time, remember that part of the assignment at this time is to find balance between chaos and stability. Until next time, please remember that while all this is swirling around us and while these variables have collected in unprecedented ways above us, we have a lot of choices down here. We can take those opportunities or ignore them. We can be ruined by the chaos or rise to it. We can be leveled by the destruction or build inside of it. These are all choices that we have. So until next time, be well, be conscious, and be kind. I'll see you soon.